Welcome back to another episode of the Deep Six Wrestling Podcast. It is Thursday, August 18th, and it is Ryan here with another episode of my NXT UK review. And boy, do we got some news before we start off this review. NXT UK has been announced that it is going to end on September 4th. So no more tapings. We'd known that they were not going to be able to use the BT Sports Arena that they had been using due to soccer coverage, or football coverage as it's called, in Europe and most of the world. So it seemed like, okay, maybe a few people, they might do tapings in the U.S., on NXT 2.0 this week. We had Gallus show up. We had Blair Davenport show up, and Tyler Bate show up with the UK Championship, spoiling the entire NXT UK tournament that they're doing. And that would lead some people to be like, okay, well, it seems like these two brands are going to be going at it, maybe like a co-branded show, and that's what it seems like we're going to get on September 4th, going against All Out. It'll be an NXT Worlds Collide, it seems. What we didn't know was going to be that NXT UK was going to be shutting down permanently. Apparently it is going to come back in some way as NXT Europe, but that won't be until sometime in 2023. No real details about that yet. But what we do have details on is that there have been 24 talents that have been signed to NXT UK contracts that have been terminated. They've been released from their contracts, some of them being backstage personnel, some of them being most of them being wrestlers, and one being the ring announcer. So as of 8:21 p.m. here in the United States, it's been confirmed by either the wrestlers themselves or PW Insider that there's been 24 people who have been released from their contracts. The ones who have spoken about it as of right now are Flash Morgan Webster, Danny Luna, and Mark Andrews of the South Wales subculture. We have Wild Boar and Primate, who were a tag team together. Jack Stars, Amelia McKenzie, Amal, Dave Mastiff, Ashton Smith, Shaw Samuels, Nina Samuels, Sam Gradwell, Rohan Raja, Kenny Williams, and Amir Jordan, as well as Christy Bosley, I'm not 100% sure how it's pronounced, who was the ring announcer. PW Insider followed it up with the announcement that Saxon Huxley, Zaya Brookside, Tioman, Tyson T-Bone, Eddie Dennis, Sid Scala, and probably the biggest name on the list, Trent Seven, have all been released from their contracts as well. These are huge because it is a lot of the main core of this show. Just with this week's show alone, every match on this card had at least one person that will not be returning or has been terminated. Could they come back when NXT Europe is a thing? Yes, but we don't know when that's going to be. It could be these people want to, go elsewhere. They want to wrestle when they can now. So it'll be interesting to see what we get. But yeah, Mark Andrews has been there since the beginning. Brookside, probably one of the bigger names in the women's division. Amal, seemed like she was getting geared up to challenge for the women's title at some point. Um, Trent Seven had just turned heel and was just starting his feud with his basically his partner for so long in Tyler Bate. Um, yeah, there's a lot to unpack here. And yeah, let us know what you think is going to happen with these guys. Do you could you see any of them go elsewhere? Um, I mean, if the reason they're getting released is, as some people are speculating, and by some people I mean people on the internet that aren't actual journalists or reporters on this stuff, are just saying, hey, maybe they're getting released because they don't want to come over to the U.S. or they can't come to the U.S. Maybe, but I don't know. There's a lot of names here. I wouldn't be surprised if there's more in the coming days. I don't think we'll have any more announcements today, at least, since it's already past midnight in the UK. So I'd assume there won't be any more unless people start posting in the morning about it. But yeah, it'll be interesting to hear and see what happens. But yeah, definitely a bit of a shock. And even with this set of tapings, or this show that just happened or aired, we also had Saxon Huxley seem like he was joining Chase U, which seemed to imply that either Chase U was going to stay around in NXT UK or he was going to come to the US with Chase U. So interesting. Don't know what to make of it all. But yeah, hopefully a lot of these talents are bigger names like Mark Andrews, Millie McKenzie, Flash Morgan Webster, Trent Seven, Zaya Brookside. I feel like they will get bookings and they'll land on their feet. It'll be interesting to see where everybody else falls, and what everybody else wants to do. So yeah. But with that said, we are going to get right on in to our review here. So the show starts off with our first, our third matchup of the first round, but our first of the day. It is Joe Coffey versus Mark Andrews. And crowd super behind Joe Coffey as he comes out here. And throughout this match, they were all behind Joe Coffey. Yeah, I think it's very interesting. Again, I've pointed out that there was time that I did not watch NXT UK, but when I was following it before, Gallus were the bad boys. Joe Coffey was very hit or miss on if people liked him or not. You're either in the camp of I really like him or I really hate him. Then the speaking out stuff came out, and people tended to seem like they were against him. He'd basically fallen off the face of the earth. I totally forgot he existed for the longest time. And now he's back. Crowd loves him. He's in pretty good shape here. And I thought these guys two had a really strong match. Really cool spot midway through here. Joe Coffey looked like he gets thrown to the outside, but his legs or his feet get caught in the apron, so he's just hanging off the apron. And this allows Mark Andrews to come in with a double stomp. It looked really cool. It's a very unique spot. Pretty impressive that Coffey could keep himself hanging like that for so long. Also interesting that Joe Coffey looked like he was going to lose towards the end of this match. Mark Andrews hits the Stun Dog Millionaire. Commentary made it seem like this was the finish of the match. Like he should like this was a finisher that was just hit. But Joe Coffey basically no sells it. It's like he goes down to one knee, and then hits his finisher. And Joe Coffey wins. Weird ending. Just based off the presentation, it made it seem like this was Mark Andrews' finish, and that somebody had just basically no-sold it and hit their own finisher instead. Odd, but I think Joe Coffey makes sense at winning this. After this is a weird promo from Joe Coffey backstage where he's singing. He talks about how Gallus is going to finally get a championship, even though Mark Coffey is currently the Heritage Cup champion, and that Joe Coffey is going to make Gallus relevant again, and they're gonna be back in the title picture. They're gonna have gold again, and he starts singing again, and there's a referee there who just is clapping along and then making faces in the camera. Pretty weird. After this, we get Amal versus Nina Samuels. As Nina comes out, they're talking about how wins and losses matter to get put into the title picture, and the fact that Nina believes that she should be in the title picture ahead of Amal doesn't make sense because she hasn't won a match since 2021. And this just raises so many more questions on this women's division. As I pointed out last week, it makes no sense, or the last 2 weeks, that hasn't made sense that Eliza and Amal are in the title picture if they don't win regularly, and in fact lose regularly. And now commentary is saying that wins and losses should matter, and that should define who should be in the title picture. It's just weird. This match starts off real sloppy. Amal seemed like she was trying to hit some stiffer elbow shots, and was kind of like, as she was about to hit them, tried to not make them hit as hard. There was some lack of communication in parts. It just seemed like they weren't clicking on offense or defense at this point very well. And then Nina took control, and once she was in control of the match, it felt like it got much more smooth. I don't know if it's that Amal is green or what, but it felt like when she was trying to be in control, the match got a little sloppier. But once Nina took control, it felt much more like they were both comfortable with everything going on. There weren't as many sloppy parts. Nina was in control for quite some time before Amal would take control, again hitting stiffer elbows, which looked really devastating. After Amal is finished doing this comeback section, she does throw Nina into the turnbuckles. Nina bounces forward a bit as Amal is running towards the corner. I assume Amal was trying to do like a clothesline because it looks like she's trying to extend her arm as she does this, but basically she does it too quickly, and Nina bounces back too quickly, and this looks a little sloppy. But overall, this match did get better as the match went on. But Amal does pick up the win with the Hope Breaker, I believe is what they call her finisher. And then she goes to the camera. She calls out Eliza. She calls out Isla Dawn. And she calls out Blair Davenport and says, you know what, she's coming for them. And then she's going to take the title. Overall, fine match. It wasn't great. It got better towards in the middle and towards the end of the match. But yeah, it's nothing to write home about. This would take us to our next segment, which was Oliver Carter coming out of the medical area again, and he says to the camera that, my legs are fine, my knee is fine, and everything's good and normal. Trent Seven shows up and he's like, "Oh, but is it really?" And they pan the camera down, and Oliver Carter has a giant knee brace on, and Trent says, I wouldn't try to jinx it. I wouldn't try to re-injure that because it looks like a giant target, basically. So you should just, withdraw, give me the bye to the finals, and we can move on. And you won't have to get hurt. You can rest up some more. Oliver Carter says, I faced you before, and the last time we faced each other, you became ex-tag team champions. And Trent Seven says, and that was a defining moment in my career. I got rid of the dead weight, and now I can show you who the true Trent Seven is. So it definitely seems like they're going to be working on that knee. I am so confused by this whole medical injury storyline with Oliver Carter. Solely because, again, right before the tournament starts, 2 weeks ago, he has a neck injury. Last week, it's a knee injury, and his neck is perfectly fine, even though he said that he was going to be out a few weeks with a neck injury. Just real silly storyline stuff, and now all of a sudden his knee is back to normal. Just needs a brace on it. It's weird. It's silly. Yeah, after this we get an Ilya Dragunov promo where he talks about how he's been watching the tournament. He's really enjoyed all the matches. Everybody's bringing their A game. But whoever wins the tournament needs to know that they need to continue being the fighting champion that the lineage has had. And once he comes back, he will throw everything at them to take back what is his, because long live the Tsar, or long reign the Tsar. This would take us to Chase U, Andre Chase, and Bodie Hayward versus Eddie Dennis and Saxon Huxley. I don't remember what I said last week about this. I think I said like a random man who was eating meat was in the classroom. Now that he's not eating meat, I totally remember Saxon Huxley. I believe in the NXT UK tournament that he was a part of, the crowd kept on chanting Jesus at him because he looks like a stereotypical European version of what Jesus looks like, as a white man with big beard, long hair. Anyway, the story here is that Eddie Dennis, as a former headmaster of a school, is going to teach Saxon Huxley how to be normal in the same span that it's taken Andre Chase, or in a week's time, compared to Andre Chase getting Bodie Hayward up to where he is over several months, which is weird. It's silly. Yeah. The match is fine. This is the first time I've seen Andre Chase in the ring. He looked really good, especially since he's wrestling in a sweater, jean, pants, and just some regular sneakers. Bodie Hayward, again, nothing great. He's very... him and Saxon made sense to wrestle against each other, but they didn't do too much wrestling against each other. The main thing was Eddie Dennis would be failing towards Andre Chase. Then Bodie Hayward would make mistakes. Eddie Dennis would capitalize. Andre Chase would get in. Eddie Dennis would tag Saxon in. Saxon would bring it to Andre Chase. And then Eddie Dennis wanted the win for himself, so he tags Saxon out. Saxon gets mad about it. Eddie Dennis loses to a flatliner. And then after the match, Saxon Huxley lays out Eddie Dennis again, and he celebrates with Chase U, gets a handshake, and seems like he has joined Chase U. But as I said, seems like they're not going to go forward with that since he has been released, as well as Eddie Dennis. This was fine. It gives Chase U their first win in the UK. Yeah. After this, we get a Heritage Cup video package with Noam Dar and Mark Coffey. Again, this brings up the point of, if Joe Coffey at the beginning talking about how Gallus doesn't have any championships and he's going to bring a championship to Gallus to put them on top. Mark Coffey has the Heritage Cup title. Don't know what that does that not count in their book? I don't know. Silly. I thought this made this feel like a major deal. Heritage Cup is really unique. It's really cool looking, and it seems they seem to make it prestigious. So I'm very interested to see what will happen. I'm excited for this match because I really like Noam Dar. And yeah, after this we get our final match of the night. It is the main event: Kenny Williams versus Tyler Bate. This is my first time seeing Kenny Williams in NXT UK. Apparently his nickname is the Cockroach or the Scumbag. I don't know why anybody would want to be called the Cockroach. I just think that's a very silly, stupid name for a character. It's on his Titantron. It's very silly. The Scumbag is perfectly fine if you're a heel and you want to play dirty, but the Cockroach, that doesn't even sound intimidating. It makes you seem like you're gonna get squashed. This whole match was basically Kenny Williams was trying to get under the skin of Tyler Bate over and over and over again. Commentary kept on talking about how Tyler Bate has had this more Zen-like appearance and philosophy over the last few months, and Kenny was trying to get under his skin, try to get him more emotional because he thought that he could take advantage of that. And anytime that Tyler Bate would go too emotional, it seemed like Kenny Williams was going to take control. Kenny did try to finish this match off early in a strength contest, keeping Tyler Bate down with all his force on him. It got 2 count. He did it again, 2 count. Did a third time, 2 count as Tyler bridged out of it, which got a big reaction. Kenny Williams at one point throws Tyler out of the ring. They start brawling on the outside. He throws Tyler into the barricade, gets back inside the ring, and this gets us to an 8 count. He tries to act like he's sorry. He goes for the handshake, laughs at Tyler Bate for extending his hand too, which was weird. But yeah, this was a really good match. Tyler Bate would take control towards the end of this match. He would go with a really cool dive towards the outside that he got a lot of air on. Looked really painful, but gets Kenny back in the ring. He does his airplane spin twice. I've said this before, not on the podcast, but towards others, about the Cesaro swing when the crowd counts and it's clearly off of what his spin is. This is the same thing. The crowd is counting seconds instead of how many spins he is actually doing. So at one point they're 6, 7, and he's clearly at double digits at this point. Just stop with the counting if you're not going to count on it. It's silly because commentary is going to go with the fans even though it's not, and it's just wacky. Tyler would go for the Tyler Driver 97, but Kenny Williams would get out of it. And eventually Tyler is able to hit the Tyler Driver 97, pick up the win. Next week we have learned that we will have our Heritage Cup match between Noam Dar and Mark Coffey, and we'll also get our semifinal matches, both of them. So we'll have Trent Seven versus Jordan Oliver, and we'll have Joe Coffey versus Tyler Bate. Also, apparently, after Tyler wins, Andy Shepherd says, "Jinky, we can now have Jinkies for all." I don't know what this means. I thought it was silly. Cool. Overall, I thought this was a good episode. I think this is the best episode so far that I've watched on the 4-week journey of me getting back into it. But yeah, it's silly that NXT spoiled it all. We know who won the title. Gallus is now heels, apparently. And all these people have been released, so the title picture for the women's division is a little clearer, I guess. Maybe not, because it seems like Blair might be going for the NXT 2.0 women's title instead. Who knows? But yeah. Overall, good episode. Giving it a thumbs up. And yeah. So thank you guys for listening. This will be out either on Thursday, today, Friday, or Saturday, depending on our schedule. We will also have our Impact Power Hour, me and Angelo later. Tonight we'll be recording that. So we will also have that most likely tomorrow. And then also Rob's SmackDown review tomorrow or Saturday morning. So yeah, be on the lookout for all this. And I'll talk to you next time. Bye.